I turned down a scholarship abroad to stay and take care of my father's business. Now, he says I'm not entitled to even a part of it. I remember the email perfectly. I had spent weeks obsessively checking my inbox, hitting F5 as if the computer had the power to speed up fate. When I finally saw it, I didn't open it right away. My hands were trembling. I remember going into the bathroom, closing the door, taking a deep breath, and, as if I were about to defuse a bomb, I opened it. Congratulations. You have been admitted with a full scholarship. I cried. I cried like I hadn't cried since my mother died. It was a dream scholarship, one of those you think only exists for people in movies, a master's in business management at the University of Melbourne, Australia. All expenses paid. Housing, tuition, monthly stipend. I just had to get my paperwork in order and fly. I had spent years preparing for that. I didn't go out with friends. I sacrificed every weekend to study. My father said I was overdoing it, that a degree like that was no guarantee of anything, that out there, no one's going to give you anything just because you speak nice English. But that scholarship wasn't just about me. It was my ticket to give him a better life, to help the family business. Everything my mom had built before she died. My mother had a bakery. Well, we had a bakery. La Flor de Trigo. It was small, but beloved in the neighborhood. When she died of heart attack, sudden, devastating, my father fell apart. I was 22 years old, in my last semester of university. He tried to keep running the business, but he didn't have the touch, or the heart, to be honest. I started helping him while I was still in school, and little by little, I began spending more and more time there. I changed recipes, improved processes, formed partnerships with local coffee shops. I poured my soul into it. When I got the scholarship, the business was starting to thrive again. We weren't just selling in the neighborhood anymore. People came from other areas. I felt like I was leaving something meaningful behind. Then came the conversation. It was an afternoon in May. I showed him the email with a mix of pride and fear. He read it in silence, crumpled the page, and left it on the table. "And what does that mean?" he asked without looking up. "It means I'm leaving. In September. Australia. 2 years. And the business? You're gonna leave it behind." "Dad, I'm not abandoning it. We already hired Sandra. She can take over while I'm gone. It's just temporary. It's not the same. You're the one who knows everything. The one who busts his ass every morning. The one who deals with the suppliers." Exactly, because I organized it. Because now it works. He got up, went to the kitchen, and said nothing for a while. Then, as if he had been chewing on it the whole time, "Your mother gave her life to this bakery. And now you're leaving just when it's finally bearing fruit." I didn't answer. I sat in front of him. My heart was pounding in my temples. "Dad, this is something big. It's for me, but also for us. Imagine what I could do when I come back. We could expand. Open more stores. Get into supermarkets. And what if you don't come back? What? You'll go, start your life over there. Fall in love. Forget all of this." I would never forget. You know how much I love this place. How much I love what Mom built. He didn't respond. Just looked at me with that expression. A mix of disappointment and sadness, as if I were letting him down in the worst possible way. I went to bed with a knot in my chest. The following days were hell. Every conversation went in circles, like a wheel stuck in the mud. I talked about opportunities. He talked about loyalty. I talked about growth. He talked about abandonment. Until one day, 2 weeks later, I walked into the bakery and found him crying, sitting in the back in the cold room, hugging Mom's apron. I had never seen him like that. That day I broke. "I'll stay," I said without him even asking. He didn't hug me. He didn't thank me. He just nodded and murmured, "Okay." I turned down the scholarship 2 days later. The following months were a mix of frustration and commitment. I poured all my energy into the business. We grew it. I launched a modernization plan. We implemented WhatsApp orders, eco-friendly packaging, vegan bread. We started getting traction on social media. We were even featured in a local newspaper. Revenue went up. We hired 2 new bakers. I did everything. Social media, finances, inventory, customer service, distribution. My father slowly started stepping back. He stayed home watching TV. Sometimes he'd come by in the afternoons, look in from the door, and leave without saying a word. He said he was proud, but it was a cold, silent pride. I don't know if it was resentment. For years went by. 4 years without a vacation. Without leaving the country. Without a stable partner. My friends started getting married, moving abroad, and I was still there, running a bakery that didn't even resemble what it used to be. Until, 2 weeks ago, everything broke. My father got sick. Severe kidney failure. He was hospitalized for 3 days, and when he got out, he said he wanted to leave everything in order. "We have to take care of the paperwork, son. I don't want there to be problems if something happens to me." It made sense to me. We were going to sign a power of attorney so I could formally manage everything, open accounts in the business's name, start the process of forming an official partnership. I went to the notary with him. I had the documents ready, prepare with a lawyer. What I found left me speechless. I've decided that the business will go to your cousin Sebastian, he said, while signing some papers I hadn't seen before. What? He's younger. He's motivated. You've already done what you had to do. What do you mean I've done what I had to do? I've been running this bakery for 4 years. Yes, and thank you for that. But it's not yours to keep. It's a family legacy. And what has Sebastian done for the legacy? He's never even set foot in the bakery. He doesn't even know how to bake. It's my decision. I gave up a scholarship to stay. My future. For you. Silence. He just looked at me with a coldness I'd never seen in him. A frigidity that chilled me to the bone. That was your decision, he said. I never forced you. I didn't know what to say. It felt like all the oxygen had been sucked out of the room. The notary looked at us, uncomfortable. I asked for a copy of the papers and left without looking back. Since then, I've been in a fog. I don't eat. I don't sleep well. I go to the bakery with a knot in my stomach. Sebastian hasn't shown up yet, but he's already telling relatives that he's going to renovate, that he's going to breathe new life into the business. I don't know what to do. Everything I worked for, everything I sacrificed is going to vanish. And the worst part is my father looks at me like I'm the selfish one, like I'm the one trying to take something that was never mine. There are nights when I wonder if I made an irreparable mistake, if I should have left, if somewhere in a parallel universe, there's a version of me that didn't let guilt trap him. And the most fucked up part is that a part of me still loves him, still wants him to say, I'm sorry, I was wrong, this is yours. But that day never comes. And yesterday, I received a legal summons. Yes, a formal document giving me 15 days to vacate the premises. Apparently, Sebastian already pulled some strings and got the business property under his name. My father signed it. Says I was just helping, that I was never formally part of the business. I'm devastated. I don't know if I should fight legally. I don't have lawyers. I don't have savings. I invested everything into modernizing the shop. My youth, all my energy for what? And it's not just the business. It's what it represents. It's like losing my father while he's still alive. And the worst part is, I feel like this is just the beginning. When I told Sandra, the baker who had worked with me for 3 years, about the summons, she thought I was joking. They're kicking you out of the business you built. It's not mine, Sandra. According to my dad, I was just helping out. The word stuck in my head like a rotten echo. Helping, as if I'd just shown up once a month with a broom in my hand. As if I hadn't been there at 4 in the morning kneading dough, fixing the fryer, balancing the books, handling orders while he slept at home. Sandra started crying. She knew everything I had done. She'd been there since we started selling vegan bread. When we redid the storefront, when I stayed up until midnight going over the accounts because a supplier was trying to scam us with flour prices. She knew I was the engine. That day we closed early. I couldn't think straight. I sat in the back of the shop where my mother used to bake sweetbread. The walls still had flour stains, and the old clock, the one she had hung, still told the wrong time. I felt like smashing it. I called my father. He sent me straight to voicemail. I left him a message. Dad, I don't understand. Why are you doing this to me? I need you to explain. I won't beg, but I deserve a face-to-face conversation. I deserve at least a goodbye. He never answered. The next day, I ran into Sebastian at the shop. Yep, he was already there. No message. No call. Nothing. He had a folder under his arm and was dressed like he was about to sign papers for a fast food franchise. White shirt, expensive watch, manager attitude. Cousin, he said with a fake smile. So good to see you. I didn't know whether to hit him or laugh. I just stared at him. What are you doing here? I'm here to see how we're going to handle the transfer. Uncle asked me to start organizing everything. The transfer? Organizing? Yeah. This is my responsibility now. Don't worry. I want the transition to be smooth. I respect what you did here, seriously. But we need to take this to the next level. We're going to rebrand. Change the name, modernize everything. I've already talked to a graphic designer. I swear I felt something break inside me. Change the name? You're going to remove the name my mother gave it? Bro, don't get emotional. This is business. La Forte Trigo sounds like an old bakery. We're calling it Grano now. Cleaner, more modern. Grano, yeah, with an accent on the O to make it look cool. I couldn't take it anymore. I left. Walked 3 blocks, not knowing where I was going. I called one of my few lawyer friends, Mauricio. I told him everything, no sugarcoating. He asked me to send him a copy of the summons, the business documents, and any proof of my involvement. That night, I didn't sleep. Over the next few days, Mauricio went through everything. He sent me a brutal message. You don't appear on anything. Not as a partner, not even as an official employee. Technically, they can kick you out without consequences. It was a huge mistake not signing anything. He was right. But at that moment, I felt like a complete idiot. For years working like a mule, blindly trusting my father, without even signing a basic agreement. It wasn't just negligence, it was a sick need to please, to earn his approval. to believe that our family bond was enough. It was blind faith in filial love, and it was costing me everything. 2 days later, I went to his house. I needed to talk, man to man, son to father. He opened the door with an annoyed look. He was wearing a bathrobe, holding a remote, and looked at me like I was an unwanted insurance salesman. What do you want? To talk. Can I come in? I'm busy. Dad, come on. Busy with what? A soap opera? He shot me a nasty look, but let me in. I sat on the couch. He didn't sit. He stood with his arms crossed. What the hell is going on? I told you. Sebastian is taking over the business. You've already done your part. I did not do my part, Dad. I sacrificed my life, my scholarship, my career, my future. I'll say it again. No one forced you because you manipulated me. You cried in a mom's apron and made me feel like a traitor for wanting to grow. Do you know what it meant for me to say no to that dream? And now you tell me this was never mine. He stayed silent, but not out of guilt. No, it was a stonewall kind of silence. You know what's worse? You didn't even talk to me about it. Not one conversation. Not a son. Here's what I'm thinking. Nothing. One day, I was planning the business's future, and the next, evicted. You don't have to make it so dramatic. Dramatic? Dramatic? What would you call it? He looked away. You're not a businessman, son. You're a worker. And that's not bad, but it doesn't give you the right to claim something that doesn't belong to you. Doesn't belong to me. Do you know how much I invested in that place? Of my own money? How much debt I took on to buy the new mixer? How many Sundays I saw no one because I was closing the books? That was your choice. No, it was an unspoken promise. A fucking moral debt. You let me believe that if I stayed, this would be mine too. And now you rip it away like it's nothing. I stood up. I wasn't crying anymore. I wasn't trembling. Something inside me had hardened like a layer of cement. This doesn't end here. He looked at me with a flicker of fear. Just for a second. Then he covered it with his usual dry mask. Do whatever you want. But you're not going to win. And that's when I knew. My dad wasn't the man I thought he was. Over the next 2 weeks, I started clearing out my things from the shop. I did it at dawn when no one would see me. I didn't take much. My laptop, the notebooks with the recipes, my inventory journals, an old photo of Mom that I'd framed above the oven. The rest wasn't legally mine. Sandra quit. I'm leaving with you, she said. I'm not working for that idiot. I thanked her with tears in my eyes. She was the only one who had treated me like a person through all of this. I paid her for her days and a little extra. She said it wasn't necessary, but I insisted. Meanwhile, Sebastian was remodeling. Brought in workers, changed the colors, took out the wooden shelves we had made by hand. He installed LED lights and an industrial coffee machine. One night, I saw the new sign. It no longer said La Flor de Trigo. Now, it was a ridiculous name in a modern font that looked like it came from a hipster app. The only thing they didn't change was the address. I had to watch them rip down the sign I had put up with my own hands and throw in the trash. I walked over and picked it up. It still had dust in the corners. I hugged it. It felt like I was hugging my mother. No one said a word. Mauricio gave me an idea. Not a definite solution, but a possible path. You can sue for unjust enrichment. It doesn't guarantee a win, but at least you might recover something. I said yes. We put together a folder with photos, emails, screenshots of conversations, social media posts where I appeared as the owner, documents showing my personal accounts paid business expenses. The lawsuit was filed in court 4 days ago. Now I wait. In the meantime, I sleep in a rented room. I have no income. I'm burning through the savings I'd set aside to buy new equipment. But I don't regret it. I'm not going to let this story end like this. I'm tired, but clearer than ever. If my father wants to play dirty, I'm no longer afraid to get my hands dirty too. Not out of revenge, but out of respect for everything I've built. For myself. And even though I have no location, no oven, not even a logo, I'm going to start over. Yesterday, I received an unexpected message from one of the coffee shops that used to buy bread from us. Hi, we heard about everything that happened. Just wanted to say that if you ever start something on your own, count on us. We bought from you, not from that business. I couldn't hold back the tears. And this morning, Sandra sent me something even more powerful. I have a friend renting a small place. We could start from scratch. You and me. Artisan bread. Nothing fancy. Just quality. Are you in? I'm scared. I have no capital, no equipment. But I have anger. I have dignity. And I have the certainty that even if they take everything from me, what I know, what I am, no one can take that. And here I am, thinking about whether to say yes. Because if I'm going to fall, I'll fall fighting. And if I rise, it'll be stronger than ever. I didn't think the worst was still to come. I naively believed I'd already hit rock bottom. They had kicked me out of my own effort, replaced me like a broken tool, called me a helper when I had poured my soul into that business. And yet, I still had more to lose. I said yes to the place. The one Sandra mentioned. It was a tiny space, a dark corner in a low-traffic area, with damp walls and an old, rusty industrial oven, abandoned like a stray dog. The first day I saw it, I sat on a stool and broke down crying. Sandra said nothing. She let me cry. Then she placed a cup of coffee in my hand and said, "It's not where we start that matters. It's who we start with." That's how we began. With nothing. No customers, no modern equipment, no investment or professional social media. I started kneading by hand, with stiff arms, a broken back, and tears falling into the flour. Every loaf I baked was a scream of dignity. We sold just a few dozen a day, often on consignment to the few contacts who still believed in me. Some cafes welcomed us with warmth. Others shut their doors, not because of quality, but out of fear of retaliation. Sebastian had started expanding aggressively. He pushed products with savage discounts, threatened to cut deliveries to shops that bought from the competition. From me, he called it market strategy. I called it what it was, a stab in the back. One afternoon, I ran into him at an entrepreneur fair. I had a small stand, no brand, no lights, no show, just my bread on a wooden board. He had a huge space, music, promo girls handing out flyers, a tasting table with cold brew. He saw me, smiled like he was doing me a favor, walked over and said, "You look good, cousin. Thought you'd be more broke." I didn't answer. I looked at him with the same coldness you give to a poorly healed wound. "Did you know one of your suppliers contacted me?" He continued. "Said you're in debt, that you're asking for extensions. I don't know. It's going to be tough for you to stay afloat like this." "Don't mess with them," I said, jaw clenched. "Leave them alone." He shrugged. "I'm just saying, if you can't handle the game, maybe don't play. Some of us were born to be bosses, others to knead dough." He walked away with that last line like he'd dropped a bomb. I was left shaking, not from fear, from rage and helplessness. Because he was right. I was in debt. I was exhausted. And I was alone, except for Sandra, who looked thinner, more tired, more worried every day. Still, we kept going until the night of the fire. It was a Wednesday. We were finishing up baking the orders for Thursday. I had gone out to deliver a gluten-free loaf to an elderly woman who couldn't get around. When I came back, I smelled it from the corner. Not bread. Burnt plastic, black smoke, the stench of everything that goes up in flames when something hard-earned is destroyed. I saw Sandra outside, screaming for help. We called the fire department. We yelled. We begged for extinguishers. The oven had exploded. Literally. A short circuit lit it from the inside. The gas system failed. Flames swallowed half the kitchen in minutes. When the firefighters arrived, there was nothing left. No bread. No flour. No hope. Sandra had burns on her hands. They doused her in cold water and took her to the hospital. I stayed there, on the sidewalk, watching the embers of my second try burn out. A neighbor approached and said something I couldn't process at the time. "That oven didn't look safe." "Who sold it to you?" "The oven came with the place." I had barely checked it, because I had no other option. But when I went to find the warranty, the little information I had about the installation, I realized something even more disturbing. There was no certificate, no stamp, no inspection. It was scrap metal, and no one told me. The owner of the place showed up the next day. Pale, trembling. He apologized, said he bought it cheap, didn't know it was that bad, didn't think it would fail. That he installed it himself with a technician friend. No paperwork, no insurance, nothing legal. And I, desperate with no options, trusting, didn't check. I used it. I turned it on, and it blew up in my face. Literally. Sandra was hospitalized for 5 days. She was left with scars on both hands. Not serious, but painful. When I saw her, she tried to play it down, said she was fine, but I saw the fear in her eyes, the exhaustion, the frustration. "I'm sorry," I said. "You don't have to apologize. You were just trying to survive." I visited her every day, brought her coffee, books, read to her out loud to distract her. It was the least I could do. The place was shut down. The landlord, afraid of a lawsuit, blamed me for the fire, said I mishandled the oven, that he never authorized it to be used in that condition, that it was my negligence. He sent an eviction letter with a threat of legal action. Mauricio called me. "You want to fight this too?" I didn't know what to say. I was so tired, I had no strength to fight another legal battle. I didn't even know if I wanted to keep going. That's when I truly thought about giving up. For real. Going back to the scholarship. Try and get it reinstated. Going back to school. Or leaving the city. Everything. I wanted to erase this hell and pretend it had never happened. Then I got the worst call. It was from the lawyer handling the lawsuit against my father. "I have to tell you something. It's not good. Go ahead. Your dad transferred everything to a new corporation under Sebastian's name. The accounts, the assets, the licenses, everything. Before the lawsuit reached the judge. He did it legally, yes, but fast. Way too fast. What does that mean? It means that if we win, there won't be anything to collect from. He emptied it. Technically, your father no longer owns anything, and you could end up with a ruling in your favor. But not a single cent. I stayed silent. Can't we prove he did it to avoid the lawsuit? We could try, but it's hard. He worked with an expert lawyer. If he wants to sink you, he'll succeed. The worst part wasn't even that. The worst part was what he told me at the end. Oh, and one more thing. 2 days ago, a counter lawsuit was filed for defamation and unfair competition from Sebastian's company. I didn't react. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just stared at the wall as if I were waiting for someone to come in and say, "It's over." It was a nightmare, but no one came. It was real. All of it. They were destroying me. Legally, emotionally, physically, and not by accident. Not by chance. On purpose. Sandra hugged me when she found out. We have to stop. That's it. We can't keep losing. And she was right. We had lost everything. Again, that night, I went back home to the rented room with a damp ceiling and a mattress with hard springs and stared at the ceiling for hours. I thought about Mom, about how all of this would have been different if she were still alive. How she would have stopped my dad, would have defended what was fair, would have defended me. I thought about writing her a letter, as if she could read it. I started, tore it up, started another, threw it away. There are no words to explain what it feels like when everything you gave, everything you were, everything you loved, turns against you. There in that room, in the darkness, with empty hands and a heart in pieces, I decided something. I'm not going to try to beat them anymore. I'm going to do what they will never be able to do. Start over. From scratch. Without hate, but with memory. And while they rot in their pettiness, I'm going to build something real. Maybe not big. Maybe not fancy. But mine. Whole. Human. All I have now is a notebook full of recipes, a couple of loyal contacts, and this story carved into my skin. And if everything goes wrong again, let it be because I tried to live with dignity. Not because I gave up. I started from scratch. With worn hands and pride turned to ashes. I worked wherever they'd take me. A neighborhood bakery, a kiosk with an electric oven, a night school that offered trade workshops. It wasn't humiliating. I'd already been through everything. The worst had already happened. The only thing left now was to walk with my head held high. Sandra went back to her hometown, yes, but she didn't completely let go. We texted. She'd send me pictures of the coffees she served with genuine smiles. I'd send her new recipes. She was still my accomplice, even if she wasn't by my side. A few months later, one of the students from the technical workshop where I helped teach bakery classes asked if I wanted to join a provincial trade fair. A competition, cash prize, public and jury voting. I almost said no. What for? But that night, I opened the old recipe notebook I had written with my mom when I was a kid. It was stained with grease and tears. There, among scribbles, was the recipe for her rye and honey bread. That bread that never tasted the same after she left. I signed up. I made it through the stages. One by one, people kept coming back for more. The judges asked about my technique, about the story behind it. I didn't hide anything. I told them who I was, where I came from, what I had lost. Not with bitterness, with truth. In the final round, I made the rye and honey bread in a new creation, one mixed with sweet spices and wild yeast, fermented by hand over a week. I called it the second dough. Not for the process. For me. For my second life. I won. I won the contest. I won the prize. And most importantly, I won visibility. I was offered funding, spots at fairs, contacts with cafes. Everything Sebastian had denied me through threats now came from people who owed me nothing but still offer me everything. The first thing I did was open my own workshop. Not a bakery. A training space, open, without hierarchies. Shared workspace. Affordable food. Training for underprivileged youth. And of course, real bread. With soul. On social media, the project exploded. People from other provinces wrote to me. They asked for the story. I told it without names. But it was clear. The story spoke for itself. And it resonated. Because it belonged to many. Then something happened that I didn't expect. A journalist from a major outlet did a piece on me. They told my story on TV. They showed old photos. Me as a teen, carrying trays next to my father. Me kneading dough in the old family shop. Me at the fair. Me with Sandra. Me alone. The report was a hit. The public cried. They shared the video everywhere. And the truth reached everyone's ears. A week later, Mauricio, the lawyer who had followed the lawsuit closely, called me. Did you hear? Hear what? Your father. They went bankrupt. Sebastian made a bad investment. Huge debts. The group collapsed. And it looks like an audit uncovered a bunch of irregularities. I said nothing. You want to hear the best part? He continued. The new legal team cited your case as evidence of fraudulent manipulation. The commercial court reopened your lawsuit. And this time, they're on the right side. I sat down. I couldn't breathe. I don't need anything. I don't want their money. I said, it's not about that. It's about clearing your name. Legally. Historically. It's the fair thing. The trial was quick. This time, the system was on the right side. The judge overturned the previous counterclaim, ordered Sebastian to pay damages, and declared the asset transfer null due to manifest fraud. Sebastian vanished. My father didn't. One day, without warning, he came to see me. I saw him standing at the entrance of the workshop. He wore the same clothes as always, but they didn't fit the same. He was hunched, smaller, dimmed, as if the years I had carried on my body had finally caught up with his. I didn't tell him to come in. I just looked at him. He lowered his head. I didn't know you were doing so well, he said. I'm not doing well. I'm at peace. Not the same thing. He nodded, stayed silent for a while. Then his voice cracked. I failed you. I failed your mom. I failed everything we said we were. It surprised me to hear his voice like that. I had never seen him like this. Never heard him say anything without ordering, without justifying. I didn't come to ask for anything, he continued. I just wanted to say I was wrong, that I got carried away. By fear, by power, by not knowing how to be a father. He looked at me, truly looked at me, like never before. Is there anything I can do? I pointed to the kneading table. It was empty. I wiped the surface with a cloth, offered him an apron. He looked at it, hesitated, then accepted. We worked in silence, his hands clumsy, mine guiding him, like he once guided me, but without pride, without titles, just two people trying to rebuild a bridge they had burned themselves. When he left, he thanked me. He didn't apologize again. He didn't ask for help. He just said, thank you for not slamming the door. I didn't invite him back. I didn't forbid it either. I just let him go. That night, I went to bed, and for the first time in years, I slept without nightmares. Today, the workshop is still open. There are no fancy names, just a sign that says, bread with history. People come for the flavor. They stay for the conversation, for the smell of home. And me, I'm not the same person who started this story. I'm someone who lost everything, who rebuilt it all, and who understood that sometimes justice takes time. But it comes, sometimes not in a courtroom, not on paper, but in the face of the one who once despised you and now calls you teacher.